to take a look at the issue of the suspended industrial action and a call for urgent meeting with the Lagos State government by labor leaders in the state. We have in the studio Comrade Benga Ekundayo, and he's the Chairman, Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, Lagos State Council. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, now bring us to speed with the latest lingering issues of the industrial strike.
Like everybody knows, the discussion had been on for a while. It's been back and forth without much progress. At some point, it looked like the government wasn't really serious with the discussions, and the pains and the agony just kept on getting worse with our people. Now, the first thing we observed is naturally the informal sector would be taken care of because what they buy is what they sell. And the reality is what they follow to build the rest of us, and they find a way to cushion the effect on themselves. But for those of us on paid employment, what you earn is what you earn, no matter what happens, unless your employer increases your income. So it becomes difficult to survive. So where we saw that we weren't getting the necessary signals from the federal government, our national leaders had to make the call that, you know what, we can't continue like this. Something has got to give. So thankfully, at that point, the federal government saw the seriousness of the matter at that point, and they made necessary moves to avert the indefinite strike. And the meeting that held till about 2 a.m. Last night also had the final agreement that we have all seen vis-a-vis the 35,000 Naira wage award. It is not minimum wage. It's just a temporary thing pending.
A period of 6 months?
Not necessarily 6 months. What they've done now is pending when there's a new minimum wage in place that can actually give what we can term a living wage for people to survive within the economic realities that we find ourselves. So we also look at the effect of VAT on diesel, then talking about transportation mechanism that is better than what we have now, that will be cheaper. And that's talking about the compressed natural gas. They've also committed to some fund to bring in buses that will run on CNG. So those are being worked out. We know that will take some time, but we just want to see some serious commitment towards that. So a whole lot of things have been put together, and that's why then within the next 30 days, it's also expected that a committee will be put in place to now look at the new minimum wage.
All right. So why is the state body demanding a meeting with the Lagos state government? Can you break that down for us? Now,
if you look at the president's state address on October 1, it was a unilateral decision to say, okay, we're doing 25,000 Naira. Normally, when you talk about issues that affect workers, you can't make a unilateral pronouncement. It's got to be bilateral. Both the employer, in this case, the government, and the workers representative, the labor unions. So what has been done at the federal level has to be done at the state level because it is the same market that we all go to. So you can't give succor to federal workers and then there is nothing for the rest people at the state level. So that's what we're saying. We need to come to the table to discuss it and find what will be done at the state. And like you all know, even in 2019, when we had the minimum wage, federal government did 30,000 as minimum wage. In Lagos State, what we got was 35,000 as minimum wage. We believe we could have gotten more than that, but there were appeals from state governments, looking at the level of fund that they have and all that. So we expect that right now, at this point, seeing the impact of what has been done, the removal of fuel subsidy and the likes, we expect even more than what federal government has done to be done in the state. We don't expect that we will just wake up and then something is on the table. We expect that discussion to come to an agreement as to what will be done. So that's why we're calling for the discussion.
Everyone is actually clamoring for, the federal level, the state level. Let's narrow it down to the private sector. Now, the reason why we are going to narrow it down is because, when the NLC called for an industrial action the first time, they expected the private sector to actually join, in the said industrial action. But bearing in mind, we have some people in this private sector that earn as low as 10,000 Naira. So my question now is, in all of this, what is innate for the private sector?
Okay. First, there are two labor centers in Nigeria. the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress. Both labor centers have workers in both private and public sector.
Okay.
So I just want to make that clarity first. Now, the agreement that that we had early hours of today, as at 2 a.m., the agreement also has a clause that talks about government looking at the plight of the private sector to see what will be done for the employers so that they can in turn, take care of their employees. Part of the discussion that we intend to have with the state is, in Lagos State, for instance, luckily we have the seat of NECA in Lagos. We also have Manufacturers Association of Nigeria in Lagos. So the discussion is, what is government looking at? We've seen the removal of that VAT on diesel, which should be some succor to those who have to run generate electricity by themselves, running on diesel. But beyond that, what are the challenges? What are the strains, the constraints of the private employers, so that we can also have that holistic discussion to see how private employers, where they need help, can also get help, so that the employees can in turn be taken care of. Like we always say that, the wages that we earn depends to a great extent on the ability of the employer to pay. That's why you find disparity of pay between even people doing the same job once it cuts across different companies. Sometimes it depends to a great deal on the ability of that employer. You'll find that when a company is large and it's a company that is doing well, the employees will also flourish. And that's actually the essence of labor unions, having that pulling together, coming together to see that the gains that we produce for the employer, we also enjoy.
So do you see them putting the same energy for the private sector? Well,
it has to be done, because the engine of the economy actually rests mostly on the private sector. The bulk of the payee that even government receives is from the private sector, not necessarily the public sector. The majority of citizens, of workers in the state, are also in the private sector. So to that extent, it is important that we look at the private sector and put the required energy to help the private sector. Otherwise, God forbid that you wake up in the middle of the night and there's a young man knocking your door because there's no other way to, there's nowhere else to go.
All right, we all know that Nigerians are actually not happy with NLC and TUC, and that is because of the 30-day duration, because most Nigerians actually feel, that 30-day duration is for the government to buy time. How do you react to that?
Okay. Not necessarily for government to buy time. Now, for us as labor unions, for us as labor leaders, it is a tough time, actually, saying that you want to down tools, you are calling people out. It's a lot of stress. We only go that route as a last resort. There is what we always tell ourselves about the 3 C's. We consult, you consolidate on that consultation. It is when that consolidation or the consultation fails that you confront. We always leave confrontation as the last tool if we are drawn to it. So it's not a matter of giving government, room to buy time. Already, instead of 25,000, 35,000 has been done. That is in effect immediately. Then instead of 6 months, what has been done is till whenever minimum wage is in force. There is also agreement already, which will be taken to court within the next 1 week to be making a legal document, that within these 30 days, there will be a committee set up for the new minimum wage discussions to begin. So if you look at it, the 30 days is not just a window of buying time. It's a reasonable window for government to put the house in order and do those things that need to be done. If within those 30 days, government does not do those things, it therefore means that government is not sincere, is not serious. And as at that time, what Nigerians need to also understand is that this strike has not been called off. It has only been suspended. So what that means is that at the end of 30 days, we'll just wake up. If those things have not been done, you'll find us straight on the street. There's no need for any warning in that case, because it was only suspended.
You've been given so many warnings and Nigerians are actually really tired. How are we sure after this 30 days elapse, we will get to see action from the NLC?
Okay, there have been different issues. before we eventually got to this last one, although they are all related in a way. If you remember, the first issue that came up was when the removal of fuel subsidy was pronounced. We demanded discussion to at least understand where they are coming from. And I'll tell you this, I'm from the private sector. I'm from the oil and gas industry. I'm a member of Pengasan. From what we know within that industry, there are certain things that need to be done. There are things that we've done for over 30 years, and we've continued to roll in circles on the same route. We've not really gotten out of the woods. So we believe that we need to try something different. Okay. Now, when we saw a move towards that something different, the thing that we believe we need to do is, okay, come to the table, let us see holistically if you really mean well with this move, that you really want to do it. Because if you look at the downstream petroleum sector, for instance, people do look at, okay, the cost or the price of PMS in a filling station. The issue around there goes beyond that. You look at the value chain. Are we really deriving the full benefit of the value chain? The answer is no. There are so many businesses that can come on to support and supply to the refineries. We're not deriving that. There are so many byproducts that should come from there. We're not deriving those. Then, anyhow you look at it, it is still the Nigerian money going outside the Nigerian economy to bring in the refined products, when we can actually become net exporters of the product. Now we've had a state-run refineries for decades. And see, let's not deceive ourselves. Let's not lie about it. This is us. This is Nigeria. We know the things that bedevil us. Why our national lives were unable to run things away as they are properly run in other climes. You now cast your minds back. What else can you do? There are private companies that have run these things successfully in other climes. They are ready to come in. But how do you tell someone that when you spend 100 Naira to refine, you must sell at 70 Naira? That guy will not, knowing the Nigeria that we all know, and then he has to come back through the bureaucracy and the what have you of Nigerian government to get his difference. You and I will not put your money.
Anyways, it's 30 days, so we keep our fingers crossed. Thank you so much for coming on the news.
You're welcome.
Comrade Ekundayo, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
We go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you more stories. So stay with us.